The earliest record of property ownership goes back to the Babylonians in 2500 BC. The Bible also furnishes many references to the property ownership. Numerous references are found in the book of Genesis, including a passage relating to the purchase of land by Abraham by which to bury his wife Sarah. In the book of Jeremiah is, "Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which thou of old times have set in thy inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that thy Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it." Also in the book of Jeremiah is, "Cursed be to he that removeth his neighbor's landmark," and all the people shall say, Amen. Historical records show that in 1400 BC, the king of Egypt divided the land into squares of equal size and gave each Egyptian one square. The king in turn levied taxes on each person. This land was in the fertile Nile Valley, where the river overflowed and destroyed parts of these plots. The owner of the destroyed land was required to report his loss to the king and a request of reduction in taxes. The need to determine the actual losses of property resulted in the beginning of surveying in this part of the world. These early surveyors are referred to as rope stretchers in the Bible. Drawings on the walls of the tombs show the rope stretchers accompanied by officials who recorded the measurements. The Greeks and Romans also recognized individual property ownership, and Romans used taxes on land to support the costs of government. At the beginning of Christian era in Europe, the ownership of land was usually determined by the conquest. After conquest, the ruler took over all the land, and earlier land titles were extinguished. Often, sovereign rights were vested in by the ruler, by the Pope. But in non-Christian lands, the practice of the ruler having rights to all the land was much the same. The land belonged to the sovereign, often referred to as the crown. Feudal system. In the 11th century, Great Britain was conquered by William the Conqueror, Will-I-Am. He claimed all the land and ruler over all the people. Later introduced the feudal system, which was the social political system in both Great Britain and Europe during the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries. The feudal system was a basis of real property law in medieval times. Many of its principles found their way into American law. In England, the system was an arrangement between the king and noblemen and vassals. The arrangements included intricate sets of rules for tenure and transfer of real property. The noblemen ruled over all the tenants, vassals of land. These landlords protected their vassals, but expected them to pay rent on the land, and they expected them to pay rent on the land they used and to pay allegiance to their lord. Often they were required to fight for their lord. The land was in possession of the lord and could not be sold. It passed to the elders by inheritance. Vassals had no chance to own property.